This weekend I went to IKEA and I learned that a trundle is a type of bed. I have great taste because everything I wanted was out of stock, and apparently IKEA sells paint. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. For miniature painting, you need paint. And I've tried most of the brands out there, so I can tell you, it's all the same. Let's real quick shotgun through them. Games Workshop Citadel paint is decent, but expensive. Vallejo paint is very nice, and they have the widest selection of colors available. Army Painter dries a little satiny glossy for my taste, but it is very cheap, so it's good bang for the buck. Privateer Press Formula P3 or PPP is very good, and I like it just a little bit more than Games Workshop. Reaper Master Series paint is very nice, although it's a little too watery for my taste. Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl is also pre-thin and it dries incredibly matte. And transparent inks and oil paints always come in handy for special effects. All these paints are good and fine. There's no standouts, no clear losers, and that makes me wonder just how good these paints are gonna be. IKEA makes good stuff, and I'm interested to see just how usable these are. So you've got all of the obvious colors like red, green, yellow, blue, another blue, and pink. And thank goodness it comes with a black or white, or else this video would probably be dead in the water. They smell weird. Seems all right, a little bit thin, but I totally think that they'll manage to do something. I'm gonna test these out on the models I'm most familiar with, Space Marines, as I've painted well over 200. I'm gonna have to look at the consistency, coverage, and who knows? They might be excellent. Probably not though. So I have to decide what color I'm gonna paint this Space Marine, and I wanna pick something with a lot of color in it. I don't just wanna do an Ultramarine and use this suspiciously IKEA blue color. So I'm gonna have to find a chapter that is very colorful so I can get the most out of this paint, and I can really tell if it's good or not. All right, I got it. I am gonna be doing the Storm Lords. These guys are very colorful, white, red, yellow helmets, blue lenses, normal guns. This should really show me exactly what this paint's got. All right, so I have my chapter. I'm gonna airbrush prime this guy white because I'm pretty sure this paint is gonna cover like butt. Primer color is always an interesting question. I almost always do black because I like to have my shadows taken care of, but it depends on what you're gonna do. Here, I am sure I'm gonna need that white undercoat. I set up my palette with all the colors in the set. I will not be using anything but IKEA paint and water. No fancy mediums, no cheating, just Swedish colored goo. It looks like real paint, and as I dipped my brush into it, it felt a little thin, and the mixing was tricky too. All right, moment of truth. IKEA paint, 2 plastic mini. It's pretty thin. It's not bad. It's not too bad. It's probably gonna take quite a few coats. But I don't know if this is going to be like disastrously bad or hilariously bad. It's just going to be difficult. The paint does not have very good color saturation and it's not very sticky. Stickiness is an often forgotten aspect of paint. You need it to want to stick and hold onto surfaces, and this paint just doesn't. I applied coat after coat, but I ran into more problems. The paint layers are horribly fragile. The paint reactivates and wipes away easily. So I'm about 4 or 5 coats of paint in on this guy, and the coverage is, well, it's red, so there's that. It's very, very incredibly matte. There's a lot of matte medium inside of this paint, which you'd think is very good, but whatever they're using as a binding agent is terrible. Let me show you a little bit about what I'm talking about with this reactivation. So as you can see, the red is looking pretty good. Here, let's work on this cod piece a little bit. This is just water and boop, 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 a couple of strokes. The paint is basically 100% gone. That is what I'm up against with this paint. I tried to use this reactivation to my benefit, removing the red to reveal the white underneath to add highlights, and it worked. Not perfectly, not how I would like to paint things, but I did get white to poke through and make some highlighty looking things happen. It's a little pastel, desaturated, but it's the best I can do under the circumstances. I watered down the black paint and put this over the white areas to wash them, and while wet, I was thinking, damn, this looks good, but when it dried, it basically disappeared for the most part. Washes have flow aid and medium and all sorts of science that make them do what they do. Water and cheap paint is no real alternative. I went back and fixed it up the best I could. I put yellow over the helmet, and about the only positive I can say is it went on relatively smoothly. The red was very streaky, but the yellow was decent. It's too bad I didn't make an Imperial Fist. I darkened the green and put it over the base. I used some IKEA red to highlight the super cool Venus flytrap basing bits from Epic Basing. This paint frustratingly looks completely different wet versus dry. But you know what works perfectly wet or dry? That's right, our Patreon. We have a Miniature of the Month club with STLs and physical models and lots of high quality terrain STLs hosted by comics, games, and things. We also have a viewer model critique videos, a weekly hobby hangout live stream, and more. It's the best way to support us, so head on over to Patreon to get access to even more Eons of Battle. We also have merch, link in the description. Well, I think I've done just about all I can do with the 6 colors that IKEA provided. I'm gonna have to start mixing. And, funnily enough, IKEA has provided a little color mixing chart, which is adorable. Also, I now realize IKEA is always capitalized, so it's not IKEA, it's IKEA! You know, because it's bold. I mixed the red and the green, and it sorta made brown, but I suspect these are not true reds and greens, so I stole a little yellow and black to help it get to brown. I spread this onto his holster and pouches, and yep, it's terrible. But what did I really expect? I used multiple thick coats and some black to help give it a little contrast to make it look like anything. The black paint is probably the best, or should I say the least bad. Now, onto the white paint. It sure looks like white, but when I take it onto the brush, it kinda disappears. And when I put it on a model, it looks like nothing happens. It does change from just clear when wet to slightly chalky white when dry, but yeah, it's worthless. And not having white paint really takes away a lot of options when it comes to painting. This is not white paint. This is chalk in some kind of a binder medium, and not a very good quality binder medium at that. This is pretty much worthless, and is a good reminder of why a good white paint is so important. My favorite is Liquitex Professional Heavy Body Acrylic Titanium White. This is an excellent white paint. And you know what? I even have a black paint I enjoy. Apple Barrel Multi-Surface Indoor-Outdoor 21985E Black. And this is actually an 88-cent Apple Barrel paint, which is technically cheaper than this paint, because this paint was $1.88, and this paint is excellent. Part of the reason why I even tried these paints, because there can be good stuff in cheap paint, but I don't know if I've found anything worthwhile in this IKEA stuff yet, but time to keep on trucking. Now it's time for a sword, and IKEA did not provide a metallic, so we'll have to go NMM, non-metallic metal on this. I could use black paint, but it would look just like the white parts of his armor, so I mixed in blue. I glazed this over the chainsword, I did 1 coat on the blade and 3 coats everywhere else, and somehow it ended up looking really good. The blotches just happened to dry in the perfect spots. I put green over the eye lenses, and without a real white paint, it'll have to do. He's getting real close. Now it's time to do a little free-handing on the shoulder pad. Oh boy, so what am I gonna have to do? And, oh. Uh-oh. That's pretty detailed. The Stormlord symbol is a skull with 3 red lightning bolts coming out of it, so I loaded up my black paint and went for it. I tried my best to nail it in one, so I don't have to fuss with this paint. It's so bad and hard to work with. The symbol ended up getting a little too big and lopsided, but you know what? It's fine. I added another lightning bolt to the knee to hopefully help distract from the shoulder. This paint is not fun to freehand with. It's not much fun to do anything with it, but I'm getting real close to the finish line. I put more black and brown paint on the base as it was way too light, and I stippled brown onto the bottoms of his legs. The paint dries so matte that there's not nearly as much contrast as I would want on the Mini. The only thing left to do was to paint the rim of the base black. It's not working. The only thing left to do is to paint the rim of the base black. It took so many thick, chunky coats of black paint before the base rim was suitably covered. All right, now that the base has about 1 millimeter of paint on it, it looks acceptably black. Holy moly, IKEA usually makes pretty decent stuff, so I'm a little surprised. I wonder if I can find something this paint goes well on. Like wood. Wood is porous, so it's very paint friendly, and this worked reasonably well. I could see the kids having fun painting with this stuff on a birdhouse with Gam Gam. Well, it's not amazing, but for a porous surface like wood, it's fine. But that makes me wonder, what about paper? It's been a few years since art school, but clearly my skills have not dipped even a little. In no time, I had created a masterpiece. Well, I can't argue with that. This stuff is perfectly good for fine art use. Well, that sucked. IKEA, I trusted you. I trusted you to provide me with adequate paint, and you missed the mark. I love your products. I have furnished my life with Swedish particle board. I love the simple design, clean aesthetic, rugged, durable construction. But this paint, I mean, the results are results. It was a fun experiment. Well, that's not necessarily true. It was an experiment to paint with paint that is barely paint, and I was able to get something out of it. But holy cow, while I was painting, all I wanted to do was paint with something else. You don't know what you got until it's gone. And I'm gonna have to paint another project just to get the horrible taste of this IKEA paint out of my mouth. I guess both figuratively and literally. You know, really, I've been unfair to this paint. It's a children's toy. I think I proved that with the wood and paper experiment. It was never gonna knock my socks off and make me wanna throw out all of my other paint. I was able to paint a space marine. And really, this is a perfectly fine children's toy that costs 2/3 as much as just my white paint costs. So really, it's fine. Anyway, I'm gonna go cook up some Swedish meatballs, so bye-bye.